anything that you do in life, you need to have a value system in place first. Once you have a value system in place, then you can set goals based off of that value system. Once you've set goals based off of your value system, those goals will mean something to you. When you accomplish them, you will be proud, you will be able to leave this earth fulfilled, and that is the most important thing you can do before you leave this planet. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Today I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on the aftermath of Eddie Hall's famous 500kg deadlift. Do I think it was worth it? Well, before I answer that, I would just like to ask that if you enjoy these types of videos, be sure to smash that like button so I know to make more of these types of videos in the future. And if you're either new to the channel or haven't subscribed yet, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell, as I will be uploading new videos every single day. Now on to the topic at hand. Eddie Hall's 500kg deadlift. Do I think it was worth it? Well, in order to answer that question, I'm going to break this video down into several topics. First, I'm going to explain who Eddie Hall is for those of you who don't know. Then I will get into his record-breaking attempt. I will then go on to some of the health implications from the aftermath of that attempt. And lastly, I will explain whether or not I think it was worth it and why I think it was or was not worth it. Now, for those of you who don't know, Eddie Hall was the 2017 World's Strongest Man winner, and up until a couple months ago, he was also the world record holder in the deadlift. When he completed the 500kg deadlift, at the time that was the world record. I think the previous record was 463 kilograms, which he held. He held it for several years. He held the 461 kilogram, he beat it the next year with 462, 463, and then he jumped all the way to 500. And he posted a video about this back in, I believe it was January or February, when he got to 500,000 subscribers. In order to pay tribute to the 500,000 subscribers, he made a video on the 500kg deadlift. And in that video, he explained things from the build-up leading up to that lift, the things that he had to do to prep himself to complete the lift, as well as the aftermath that came from that attempt. And as you can tell from the way I've been talking so far, he did complete the lift and he was the world record holder up until a few months ago when Hafthor Bjornsson, the 2018 World's Strongest Man winner, ended up taking it from him by deadlifting 501 kilograms. Now, in that video that Eddie Hall put out a few months ago, he explained the process of what exactly he had to do to get into that mental state of mind. One of the things that he did was he consulted a hypnotherapist. And the reason he consulted a hypnotherapist was because he had been stuck on a certain number when he was deadlifting, and he just couldn't seem to break through that plateau. So he thought he would go check out a hypnotherapist, see if he had some type of mental block, and if there was something he could do to overcome that mental block in order to be able to deadlift the 500 kilograms. When he went to go see the hypnotherapist, he was explaining how most people don't use a lot of the musculature and a lot of their muscular potential. Rather, a lot of people, most of their strength potential, it lies very dormant. And the analogy was, you hear these stories about women where their children are run over by a car and they're able to lift up these car. These are actually documented stories. You can look them up. They have actually happened. And what happens is, when your body is in your flight or flight response, that means your sympathetic nervous system, when it's activated, under extreme levels of stress, in a life or death situation, you are capable of doing things that you would not think you are capable of doing. And the reason being is your body wants to survive. So if you are in a fight or flight situation or a life or death scenario, because your body wants to survive, you are going to be able to do incredible things because of the amount of adrenaline that is coursing through your body. Because of all that adrenaline, you can, if you were in a life or death situation, you can lift up a car. If you're dangling from a bridge and you're not able to do a pull-up, if you're going to die, if you don't do that pull-up, you're going to be able to do that pull-up. You can do a lot of things if your life is on the line. So that was one of the things that the hypnotherapist worked on with Eddie Hall. Not so much putting him in a life or death situation, but he wanted to put a trigger in his head. That way, when that trigger arose, he would be able to recall that moment in his head and be able to lift the deadlift. Now, one of the things with utilizing that type of approach is, first of all, you need to be very strong mentally, which Eddie Hall obviously is. If he wasn't very strong mentally, he wouldn't have won the World's Strongest Man in the first place, and he wouldn't have been able to do the 500kg deadlift. So if you are mentally strong, then there are certain tricks that you can do to put yourself in that flight or flight response. However, if you're not mentally strong, if you're mentally weak, putting yourself in that type of situation and having to constantly put yourself in that situation day in, day out in order to do this attempt, that could crush you. So you need to really be aware of your strengths and weaknesses. If you are a very mentally strong person, then it can greatly benefit you. If you're mentally weak, then you could crumble from it and it could lead to disastrous outcomes. With regard to Eddie Hall, because he was very strong mentally, he was able to put himself in that space. And I've seen several interviews of him explain the process of what the hypnotherapist had him do. And he never flat out said what exactly was the thought in his head when he went to go lift that deadlift. However, when he did the 500 kilogram video a few months ago explaining the aftermath and the build up to that lift, he did make a comment that makes me suspect that I think I know what exactly he was thinking of. One of the things that he mentioned in that video, he was talking about when he went up to the deadlift bar, how he would walk up to the bar and he just imagined someone on top of his kid and throwing him off. And I think it was a little bit of a slip up on his part because he never flat out said in previous videos what exactly the thought was. But because of that and the way he explained it, it leads me to believe that for months leading up to that lift, every day he was just imagining some guy, I won't say the word because I don't want this video to get flagged, but some guy was R-wording his kid and he needed to throw that guy off his kid in order to be able to lift that.
Basically put me in a situation in my head where I'm not lifting a weight off the floor but pulling a person off of my kids.
So he was basically picturing that his son was the floor, the man on top of his son was the bar, and when he was throwing the man off of his son, that man was actually the bar. So he's not actually picking up the man, he's picking up the bar, but he's using that visual in order to put himself in that frame of mind. Another thing that he did with regard to that lift was in order to get to that state of mind, he had to think of that over and over, but he needed a trigger to put him in that right frame of mind. And that trigger for him, I believe he said that he had some hair on the top of his palm, and he would just pull on that hair, and that was the trigger for him to put him in that mindset. Now, after that, so he ended up doing the lift, he completed the lift. Not only did he complete the lift, but he held it up there for quite a while before putting it down. If you watch that video, you can see blood gushing from his nose, it's coming out of his ears. In the aftermath, he explained how he had some bleeding in the brain, and there were a lot of issues that arose afterwards from that lift. One of the things that he was saying was 2-3 weeks after the lift, he had a barbecue with a bunch of family and friends over his house, and he was talking to people and he didn't know any of their names, he didn't recognize them, and these were all people that he was very close with. He told a story that he was talking to his wife and he had just finished talking to somebody at this backyard barbecue, and he asked his wife, "Who's that person that I was just talking to?" And she told him, "That's your brother." So there was a lot of issues that arose from that. In terms of mental health, physical health, a lot went into doing that lift. With regard to the memory issues, that's not the only issues that he suffered. There were also some physical issues. Obviously, if you're getting bleeding in the brain, that's going to be very, very traumatic physically for you. And if you do get that type of trauma in the brain, that lift likely did take years off of his life. So, do I think it was worth it for him to attempt that deadlift with everything that I know based off of what he said? The bleeding in the brain, the gushing of the blood through the nose, the ears, losing the memory temporarily, and all the other problems like the possible decrease in life expectancy. Well, whether or not it's worth it is not up to me to decide. That's going to be up to Eddie Hall. At the end of the day, if your main goal is to be a world record holder, you want to do that more than anything in the world, and you are willing to risk dying for it, then yes, absolutely it is worth it because you are accomplishing your goal and you know the risks that are involved. However, you need to know what the risks are and you need to have proper goals in place. If you want to lift it because you think it's going to be cool and it doesn't really matter if you do it or you don't, and you really love living more than you do breaking world records, then no, it's not worth it because you can get some serious injuries and you could possibly even die under those circumstances if you attempt it. However, if breaking that record is the most important thing to you and it will lead you to a better life, you'll be able to provide for your family, you'll go in the record books, you'll basically be immortalized forever. He will be remembered as the first person to ever lift 500 kilograms. Then yes, it is worth it. I'll just say for myself, if I had the capability to break a world record in deadlift in terms of absolute poundage, I would be willing to risk my life, I'm not gonna lie. Because at the end of the day, right now, I don't have a family in terms of a wife and kids. I do have a family, obviously, in terms of parents, brothers, sisters, that type of stuff. But I don't have a wife and kids. So if I were to die, I wouldn't be leaving them behind with absolutely nothing. And let's say I did have the potential to actually break that world record. Even if I did have a wife and kids, The risk that would come to me, I believe, would be worth it if I knew that the risk coming from attempting that lift would be able to provide for them. If I knew that I would have had a good chance of dying from doing that lift, but in accomplishing that feat, I would be able to make enough money to financially keep my wife and child secure for life, then for me, that risk would be worth the reward. At the end of the day, what it comes down to is your values. What do you value? If you value health, then no, it's not worth it. Don't do a record attempt. Don't become a professional athlete. Anything that you have to do at the highest level is incredibly unhealthy. So if health is your main value, that's the thing you value the absolute most, more than anything else, then no, you should not be attempting to break any records. You should not be attempting to become the best professional athlete in the world. You should focus on health. However, if your main value is you want to be remembered when you leave this earth, you want to be immortalized, you want to be able to do something that no one else has ever been able to do, and you don't care about anything else, then yes, it is worth it. Your values are going to be what determines whether or not you think something is worth it. For me personally, I'm going to be attempting a couple of world records in a few months, as long as Guinness gets back to me. I've applied to do a squat world record and a deadlift world record. Now, these are not in terms of absolute numbers, these are relative numbers. So I'm not going to be attempting the most weight ever deadlifted on the planet or the most weight ever squatted on the planet. This is going to be 2 times my body weight for repetitions in 1 minute for the deadlift, and my body weight for repetitions on the squat. Now, these 2 records right over here, for me, the reason I'm attempting them is because I know I can accomplish them. I've already unofficially broken the squat record a few months ago, so to be able to do that officially, I would love to be able to do that and just put it in the record books. And the reason being is because 1, I know I can do it, and 2, I know it's not going to negatively impact my health because I have done it in the past a few months ago and it didn't affect my health. If I could break the world record in deadlift, and I could break the world record in squat, and I could break a bunch of these world records, and I knew that my health would suffer, but I would absolutely be able to accomplish it, I'm not going to lie, I would go for it. Even though I do value my health, at the end of the day, we have a very finite amount of time on this planet. We only have, if we're lucky, 70 to 80 years to live on this planet. However, if you are able to accomplish something like a world record deadlift, or not even sports related, if you're able to accomplish something like passing some type of law that is going to change the world in the future for the better, or if you're able to come up with some invention that is going to somehow make everything better for every single person on the planet, for me personally, I think that being immortalized in history is more valuable than getting an extra 5 or 10 years on this planet. Because at the end of the day, again, we only have 70 to 80 years if we're lucky to live on this planet. Best case scenario, let's say you live to be the oldest person on the planet, you are going to be 117 years old. But if you are able to live to 117 years of age, is that really going to fulfill you? Do you want to just live your life to be as old as you possibly can and live the longest life possible? Or would you rather live a shorter life and accomplish as much as you could? Now, the two are not mutually exclusive. You could live a very short life and accomplish nothing. You could live to be 117 years old and accomplish everything you've ever wanted to plus more. They're not mutually exclusive. However, when you are deciding whether or not you want to attempt something, whether it's a world record, whether it's making some type of invention, whether it's making the world for the better, ask yourself, is this something that is worth is this my value system? Is this part of my value system? If it is part of your value system, then you should absolutely go for it. If it's not part of your value system and it's not something that you think will benefit you, then don't bother doing it because it's not worth it. At the end of the day though, it doesn't matter what you do with your life. It doesn't matter if it's sport related, weightlifting related, if it's aesthetics, health related, anything. In order to determine possible goals for yourself, you first need to establish a value system. Once you've established a value system, then you can come up with goals that you will actually value properly. If you come up with a goal, let's say you want to lose 20 pounds, but you don't really value health or you don't value aesthetics, those 20 pounds aren't going to do anything. If you are overweight and it is leading you to have health problems, and decreasing your weight will help you to achieve better health, and you value health and you value the way your body functions, then losing those 20 pounds is a good goal because that will get you to something that you value, which is your health. It will help you with your health. It will help you look better. If those are things that you value, then it's worth it. So this video, it has to do with more than just Eddie Hall and his 500 kilogram deadlift. This is more about determining what your values are. Anything that you do in life, you need to have a value system in place first. Once you have a value system in place, then you can set goals based off of that value system. Once you've set goals based off of your value system, those goals will mean something to you. When you accomplish them, you will be proud, you will be able to leave this earth fulfilled, and that is the most important thing you can do before you leave this planet. You want to be able to leave this planet better than you left it, and you want to be able to leave it fulfilled and having that feeling that you've accomplished everything that you possibly could and everything that you've wanted to accomplish. If you can honestly say at the end of your life that you've accomplished everything you want to accomplish and you've done absolutely everything you wanted, there's nothing that you could have done that would have made your life any better, then at the end of the day, you've won. You've won at the game of life. So that's the best advice that I could give you when determining your goals, value system. If you're not sure what your values are, or if you're not sure what type of goals you have, then I would strongly encourage you could just do a Google search, look up values, look at a bunch of different lists of values, determine which ones are actually yours, which ones would you value in life. Pick those ones. Based off of those values, then you can create goals, specific goals created toward those values. Once you've done all that, then bust your ass to achieve those goals, because if you value it and you set a goal towards it and you achieve it, you will be fulfilled at the end of it. Thanks for tuning in. That's pretty much it for today's video. If you enjoyed the video and would like to see more of these types of videos, be sure to smash that like button so I know to make more of these types of videos. And if you're either new to the channel or haven't subscribed yet, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell, as I will be uploading new videos every single day. That's it for today's video. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you again tomorrow.